We're used to seeing clocks set high on church buildings, and you may have wondered why somebody first thought of doing that. The answer lies with the monasteries and convents. They had well-regulated days, and they needed people to eat together, set bedtimes, work times, study times, and even more importantly, attend the services on time, the many services that operated throughout the day. Somebody would ring a bell, set high in a tower, the sound would carry across. The invention of bells automated the process and made it much easier. At first, there were no faces on the clocks, but these were gradually added. As time went on, other people found knowing the time and getting the accurate time important, and clocks appeared on other public buildings. It was the invention of railways that really stimulated their growth, because the railways needed their timetables to be accurate and people to be able to work to them for the system to be efficient. And time needed also to be consistent. In the past, people had used local time, Bristol time being 10 minutes behind London time. But it was decreed that across the United Kingdom, time would be set at Greenwich Mean Time. Not everybody approved, and the clock on the Corn Exchange in Bristol has 2-minute hands, one set to London time, the other to Bristol time. Now, we can safely assume there was a clock on the original tower in Keynsham Parish Church, but this would have been destroyed when the tower collapsed. When the new tower was built at the West End, a clock was added. We know nothing about this, but we do know that in 1729 a new clock was added. This was thought to be made by Josiah Robbins, as his name appears on the clock. He is a clockmaker from Bitton, and we know he installed and maintained the clock at Colne Parish Church. However, we've been advised by the diocesan clockmaker Andrew Nichols that our clock was actually made by William Monk. He was an important clockmaker from Berwick St James near Salisbury. He employed and made he made clocks for significant churches like Wimborne Minster and Sherborne Abbey. And we know he made and supplied clocks which could be sent to other churches to be installed by local clockmakers like Robbins of Bitton. Both Monk and Robbins were actually trained blacksmiths, and most clockmakers were at that time. And the clocks are made from wrought iron. This made them less robust than modern clocks. I asked Sue Tatford, the archivist of the local history society, if she could find me any information about the further history of Keynsham Clock, and she trawled through the online records and found me these pieces of information. By 1780 the clock needed looking at, and it was repaired, repainted and white lined. But by 1827 further repairs were needed, and Messrs Walborough, Hale and Co. undertook to repair the chimes and install a new minute hand. But in 1874 both the roof of the tower and the clock needed repairs. The vicar of the time, the Reverend Mr. Gray, thought they should be done simultaneously. The vestry disagreed and decided to proceed separately. Mr. Gray, however, went ahead to organise a subscription for the repair to the clock, and he went across the whole parish, including nonconformists. A motion of censure was raised at the next vestry meeting, but he defended himself. He said the tower roof was the responsibility of the whole congregation, but the clock belonged to the parish, and he was quite right to ask people throughout the parish to provide funds to repair it. The motion was passed, his answer was accepted, and the repair went ahead. By 1874, Messrs William Langford and Sons, a Bristol clockmaker, undertook significant repairs. This included a new pendulum, rearranging the wheels for the hands, and the clock was accurate to within 5 seconds a week. In 1887, various options for improving the clock, including illumination, were discussed as a means of celebrating the Golden Jubilee of Queen Victoria. I don't know what they did decide on, but I do know that in 1911 they were still discussing illuminating the clock, but this time for the coronation of King George V. In 1914, the clocks were silenced, as were clocks across the country throughout the First World War. They wondered about restarting them in December 1918, but decided to delay it because Mrs. Stokes, who lived nearby, was ill. They were restarted on the 1st of January 1919, but stopped on the 5th of February. This time Mrs. Hatchard, the vicar's wife, was ill. In 1939 to 1945, again the clocks would have been stopped, as was bell ringing across the country. And in 1975 the clock was repainted by Mr. Biggerstaff. We don't have any other information available. All that was trawled online. There is information available at the Bath Record Office, but at present not accessible.